There you are, standing in front of the supermarket fridge in the morning, choosing between the regular juice and the one that costs twice as much, but, and this is the key word, says freshly squeezed. Fresh squeezed. Just oranges. Nothing extra. You take the expensive one, because you're not a fool. You care about your health. But here's the question that will ruin your morning forever. What if the fresh squeezed juice you're holding was actually squeezed a year ago? Not a month, not two, up to 1 year. And while it waited for you, it sat in an enormous metal tank with all the oxygen pumped out. No oxygen, no spoilage, perfect. But there's one small problem. Without oxygen, the juice loses its scent entirely, completely. So before it's bottled, major companies add back specially engineered flavor packs, aromatic compounds created by the same chemical labs that make perfumes for Chanel. And you know what's best? On the label. Not a word about it. Because by law, it doesn't count as an additive. Today we'll expose one of the most sophisticated food deceptions of the 20th and 21st centuries. One where the victim never even realizes they've been fooled. One where even regulators look the other way. Ready to learn the truth about the breakfast drink you've been drinking your whole life? Let's start with a basic question. Why do we even drink orange juice? Most people's answer, because it's healthy. Vitamin C, natural, tasty. Now let's talk about where that idea came from. The mass culture of orange juice is not an ancient tradition. It's a product of marketing. Cold, calculated, brilliant marketing. Until the early 20th century, oranges in the US were a luxury. Children received them as a special Christmas gift. Then an agricultural revolution hit California and Florida. Harvests became so large that farmers literally didn't know what to do with them. 1916, California. The Farmers Cooperative Sunkist hired an advertising agency with a simple task: figure out how to sell more oranges. The ad men came up with something brilliant. They started selling not oranges, but juice. They ran a campaign in Iowa, where almost no one ate oranges. They gave away free juicers and placed ads in newspapers. The result? Within months, orange sales rose by 150%. Americans were taught to love orange juice. It wasn't a natural need. It was a marketing project. And it worked so well that 100 years later, half of Americans start their morning with a glass of juice, without ever asking why. The real turning point came after World War II, 1948. Florida scientists solved what seemed like an unsolvable problem: how to keep fresh juice for longer than a few hours. The answer? Frozen concentrate. Water is boiled out of the juice, leaving a thick concentrate which is then frozen. Before drinking, just add water back. The company Minute Maid brought this to market first. Thanks to television advertising, including the endorsement of Bing Crosby himself, orange juice was transformed from a seasonal delicacy into a daily ritual for millions. But then the market demanded more. People wanted not from concentrate. They wanted natural. They wanted fresh. And this is where the truly interesting part of our story begins. So how is fresh squeezed packaged juice actually made? Step by step. Florida. Harvest season. Millions of oranges are delivered to processing plants. Industrial machines squeeze them. That part actually happens. The juice really is squeezed from oranges. So far, all honest. But what comes next is what you didn't know. The freshly squeezed juice is pasteurized, heated to kill bacteria. After pasteurization, it's pumped into massive stainless steel tanks, aseptic tanks. Some hold over 1 million gallons. This is a documented fact, described in the book by journalist Alyssa Hamilton, Squeezed: What You Don't Know About Orange Juice. Then comes the key step. All the oxygen is pumped out of the tanks. Oxygen is what allows products to spoil. Without it, microorganisms can't survive. Juice in such a tank can be stored for up to 12 months, with no preservatives whatsoever. Technically, this is true. There are no preservatives. The label says so. This isn't a lie, but it isn't the whole truth. Because there's one more detail. When you pump out the oxygen and store juice for months, it loses its scent entirely. Juice that comes out of a tank smelling of nothing is orange juice nobody will buy. So major producers, and we're talking about the biggest brands you know, commission specialized companies to create Flavor packs. These are aromatic blends designed by chemists. They're made from the same compounds found in oranges, but in concentrated and selected form. The company Fermentic, one of the world's largest producers of flavorings, supplies these blends to the food industry. The same company develops aromas for luxury perfumes, meaning your natural juice smells the way chemists decided, not oranges. And here's the most powerful part. Every brand uses its own flavor pack. That's exactly why you can tell the difference between Tropicana and Simply Orange, even though both are made from Florida oranges. You're tasting a branded flavor profile, specifically engineered to match your expectations. But the label just says, orange juice. And under US FDA law, if the additives are made from compounds naturally derived from oranges, they don't need to be listed as additives. This isn't a violation of the law, it's a perfectly constructed legal maze. In 2012, journalist Alyssa Hamilton published her book and essentially exposed the entire industry to the general public. The media picked it up. People were shocked. Lawsuits followed. U.S. consumers began suing manufacturers, claiming that labeling like 100% pure and freshly squeezed was misleading. What did the companies say? Their lawyers had a great argument. We never said the juice was squeezed today. We said it contains nothing but oranges, which is technically true. Most lawsuits were dismissed or settled quietly, without public admissions. Business continued as usual, but the scandal left a mark. Some producers changed their labels, removed freshly, and replaced it with not from concentrate, which is also true. There's no concentrate there, but the tanks didn't get any smaller. All right, let's say we've made peace with the tanks and the flavor packs, but juice is still healthy, right? Vitamin C, yes and no. Vitamin C is indeed present in juice, but during pasteurization and storage, it degrades. So most producers add synthetic sodium ascorbate, artificial vitamin C, to restore levels to what's stated on the label. Again, technically not prohibited. And again, not a word about it on the bottle. But there's a more serious problem: sugar. A standard glass of orange juice, 240 milliliters, contains approximately 21 grams of sugar. That's more than a can of Coca-Cola. The key difference? In juice, the sugar is natural, but for your liver and pancreas, there is absolutely no difference. Studies published in the British Medical Journal and JAMA found a direct correlation between fruit juice consumption and the risk of developing type 2 diabetes and obesity. Not soda, not fast food, juice. The American Academy of Pediatrics, as far back as 2017, recommended completely eliminating fruit juices for children under 1 year old and strongly limiting them for older children. Because a whole apple or orange, that's fiber, slow sugars, satiety. Juice is just sugar water with vitamins. So let's sum up. What do we now know? First, fresh squeezed packaged juice can be stored for up to 12 months in aseptic tanks without oxygen. A documented fact, disputed by no one, simply not advertised. Second, after storage, the juice loses its natural aroma, and specially engineered chemical blends, flavor packs, are added to make it smell and taste the way you expect. These blends don't need to appear on the label. Third, in terms of sugar content, orange juice surpasses Coca-Cola and is still presented as a healthy alternative. Fourth, this entire system is completely legal. The FDA permits it. The juice industry lobby is one of the most powerful in the U.S. food industry. But here's what strikes me most in this whole story. This isn't a crime. It's not poison. Nobody died from a bottle of Tropicana. But this is a flawlessly constructed system where every individual claim is true, while the overall picture is a deception. 100% orange? True. No preservatives? True. No added sugar? True. But freshly squeezed? A year in a tank is not fresh, and you're paying extra money for exactly that word. This industry taught us to associate a morning glass of juice with the concept of a healthy lifestyle. It's part of American cultural DNA. The image of a happy family with a bottle of OJ on the table has existed for over 100 years. And we are still in it. We don't just drink juice. We drink the best-sold illusion of health in human history. So, what do you do with this information? First, if you want truly fresh squeezed juice, squeeze it yourself. It takes 5 minutes. 4 oranges. 1 glass. Drink it immediately because within 20-30 minutes, the vitamins start oxidizing. Second, if packaged juice works for you, that's okay too. Just know what you're buying. Don't pay twice as much for the words freshly squeezed. Third, want to actually get vitamins from oranges? Eat whole oranges, fiber, slow sugar absorption, real satiety, no tanks, no chemical labs. The food industry is a master at telling truthful sentences in ways that give you a false picture. Orange juice is just one example. The same thing happens with whole grain bread, natural yogurt, organic snacks. Every time, the same techniques. A true statement, a branded image, and a price tag for the feeling that you're making the right choice. The next time you see natural, organic, pure, or fresh, remember the giant metal tank at a factory in Florida. And ask yourself, what really stands behind that word? If this video made you look at breakfast differently, hit like, subscribe if you haven't already, and in the comments write, will you keep drinking packaged juice, or are you switching to whole fruit? Curious which choice wins.